Hey there, rock stars. This is Eric Piguero, and in this episode, Marji and I interview Roderick Johnson from the Small Business Administration. Roderick is going to clarify a bunch of misconceptions about the SBA loans and grants that are out there to help us during this COVID-19 crisis. So please take a listen, and hopefully this will help you understand better what the PPL and what the EIDL loans are and how they can help us.
Thank you, Eric. Today, I have our expert from the SBA with us, Rod Johnson, who's the leader relations specialist in the Washington Metro Area District Office. Rod, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today. You're our go-to guy, especially after you were on our panel last year for our Access to Capital. So thank you so much for taking time today to be on this call.
I am so happy to be on the call this morning to speak with the audience about getting the money in their hands so that they can continue to operate their businesses. That is so important because, as we all know, small businesses are the backbone of our national economy. So I'm happy to be on the podcast this morning.
Okay, well, let me start with the first question that I've received from some of my member businesses. Where can people follow up? Like, they want to know what the status of their application is. They heard that, you know, if the paperwork is not complete, it goes to the bottom of the pile, and they don't even know if they're at the bottom of the pile or not to fix it. So what do they do? Who do they call? How do they find out what their status is?
You know what? I have to sadly say that there really isn't a follow-up that they can do. It'll take 2 to 3 weeks, and basically now it's been running 3 weeks. If you have applied for the EIDL loan, then it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks for them to process the application. Then you will receive a letter from the SBA disaster loan area, and they will inform you of whether or not you've been approved or declined. But in terms of having a telephone number where you can actually follow up and call, there really isn't a telephone number to do that, unfortunately.
Okay, even yesterday, the SBA site went down. You guys got to be so busy. Anyway, so if they get a denial letter, then what do they do? Have to start all over?
Well, if they get a denial letter, then what I would suggest is to apply for the PPP program. But typically, with the EIDL, they are looking at the owner's FICO score. Typically, we're not trying to decline anyone. But if the FICO score is below 600, then typically there will be a denial for the fund.
Oh, okay. You know, none of this is really clear, you know, in any of the paperwork. These small businesses get so overwhelmed with all the paperwork. Here was an update that came out. I'm going to read this to you. The EIDL update. If you applied for an SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL loan, before Monday, March 30th, you need to reapply in order to get up to $10,000 forgivable loan. The application is different now and will take only 15 minutes. This money comes quickly. Then when your application is processed, even if SBA determines you don't qualify for the loan, you still don't have to pay back up to $10,000. Why did this happen? The $10,000 is an add-on to the EIDL loan through the CARES Act package. Spend 15 minutes, get up to $10,000. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, that is absolutely true. The CARES Act did add in the up to $10,000 in a forgivable loan. Now, here's the catch that I don't think that has been published, and that is it's not $10,000 automatically. What happens is you will get $1,000 per employee up to 10 employees, which equals to $10,000. And that actually includes the owner of the business in that 10-person count. So it's absolutely true that you can get up to $10,000, but keep in mind it's just for it's $1,000 per employee.
Don't you think that should be continued in the correspondence? Because I didn't know that. The way this reads, this doesn't say anything about $1,000 per employee. It doesn't say anything about that.
And that should be forthcoming in literature that's coming out. We have to keep in mind that all this, the whole $2 trillion program was hastily put together by Congress. The EIDL program, which was $50 billion to start the whole thing, was hastily put together and approved by Congress and the president. And so I would almost say on a daily basis, there are constant updates to both of these programs. And so it's been difficult to get what I call the fine print into the documentation that people are reading. But the key is make sure that through you or SCORE or our small business development centers, that you're getting information directly from them, because the SBA, a person like myself, I'm making it my priority to keep those organizations updated with the latest SBA information to push out to the small business owners so that they have the latest information.
Yeah, we're working with Graf from the SBDC. We interviewed him last week, Eric, or the week before. So we're trying to, get the right information and get it out to the people as soon as possible, because they're very confused. There's so much information. They don't know, should I go for the EIDL or should I go PPD? You want to talk about the differences?
Okay, so I was going to say, let's talk about that, because people have been actually focused on the PPP versus the EIDL. Now, this requires the owners and the resource partners to do a little math along with the owners. So let's look at how they determine the loan amount. So with EIDL, it's going to be your 2019 gross profit divided by 2. And so that's going to be your loan amount under EIDL. Okay? If you're a service-related business and you don't have a gross profit, then they're going to look at the last 6 months of operating expenses and get the loan amount that way. Now, when you look at the PPP, what they're going to do is look at the average 12 months worth of payroll times 2.5 to come up with a loan amount. Here's what people have been focusing on. Oh, under PPP, eventually it will become a forgivable loan. This is what I foresee happening. People will apply for the EIDL loan. They'll get approved. Typically, it's not uncommon for the EIDL loan to actually be more than the PPP loan, okay? But what people are looking to do is have that PPP loan pay off the EIDL loan, and then the loan can be forgiven at the end of the time period. And that can be true in theory. But in practice, you may wind up getting less money under PPP, and so you're not able to pay off the EIDL loan. And then you may wind up with a 30-year loan from EIDL, and then you could wind up with a 2-year repayment from the PPP loan. So you have to do the math to determine where will you get the most money, or would I say the most bang for your buck, to be able to keep your firm afloat. You have to do the math. Hopefully I haven't confused everybody with that.
Well, it's a lot of information to take in, because again, like I said, all these programs were coming out and people are thinking, what are my grant options? What are my loan options? What's best for me? And then between the EIDL and the PPP, it's a lot of information to take in, and they're within trying to keep their doors open. So, I'm just trying to think of how we can help them in this process. I know the banks are just totally slammed with applications. I heard from the Department of Commerce today that as of 5 o'clock last night, they're no longer accepting new applications for the COVID-19 Grant Relief and Loan Program. And I also heard that there's Department of Commerce has a Maryland one-stop account that they're asking people to sign up for so they can find out the status of their application. So, there's so much information coming out. And then, one of my businesses said, we just came off of a loan. We finally paid off our loan, and they don't want to have to go take another loan.
All right. So let's look at what's going on with the PPP program. So there was a lot of talk last week that a small business could go into their bank, apply for a loan, and walk out with a check or have money deposited into their business checking account. Now, that wasn't good information that was out there in social media. And because the SBA had not even issued guidelines for the banks to process these loans. Okay? So,
yeah.
So there weren't any guidelines for the banks to process the loan. So there was no way in the world a small business could walk into, say, Bank of America at 9 o'clock and walk out with a check at, say, 11 o'clock, because there weren't any guidelines. We are still finalizing the guidelines as we speak for how the banks are to process the loans, the documentation that's needed for the loans. Right now, the SBA and the Treasury Department are coming up with loan documentation to push out to the banks to be able to close the loans so the money can be put out on the street. So at this point in time, there are no PPP loans actually being processed because there aren't processing procedures yet that have been pushed out to the bank. So what I've been saying to small business owners is apply to EIDL. If you need the funds, apply to EIDL. You already know what the formula is. Your 2019 gross profits divided by 2, that's going to be your loan amount. And as long as you have a FICO score of over 600, then more than likely you're going to be approved for the loan. So that's the avenue that I would take, because I know that program was up and running and is successful. Let me give you a story. Last week, I called a friend of mine that's a sole proprietor. Okay, I said, "Did you know about the EIDL loan? Did you know about the $10,000? Up to $10,000?" She said, "Well, no." I encouraged her to apply last Wednesday. Okay, she applied. I said, "Well, you should probably have the money in your account by Monday of this week." She applied. She got a notice saying that the funds will actually be deposited into her account today. Okay, so it was actually a 3-day process for that up to $10,000 loan that's forgiven. Okay, so that works. That actually works, and it works in the time frame that has been published. So I'm encouraging small businesses, why not apply, take advantage of getting that loan that's forgiven while you're waiting for the rest of your request to be processed. Because if you do get up to $10,000, then that's money that's injected into your business to maybe keep you afloat for 2, 3, 4 days, depending on the number of employees. And then a couple of weeks later, you should be getting money into your account, to keep your business running. We know that EIDL works. We're waiting for the PPP to really get up and running and functional.
I don't know anybody who's got any money yet from EIDL. So when you said that's hope. Maybe they are getting it, and I just don't know it.
Yes,
because it's like taking so long from when this started until people are seeing money and trying to go through this process, that they're almost giving up before they even start. They're already saying like, "Oh, here goes the government. It's all talk and no action, and nothing's happening." Just more red tape, more paperwork. So, I don't want to see that. It's like there is light at the end of the tunnel. We will all get through this together. Let's just stay healthy and keep the course, and these things will catch up. But, when you're a small business looking to keep the lights on, and you don't know if say a business already let go of their 15 employees, and they're just, they don't know whether to stay open or to close because they haven't seen any money yet. It's a very trying time for small businesses.
It really is. And I'm glad that the counties are, coming up with their own loan programs and grant programs to also work in tandem with the federal programs, particularly when PPP gets up and running. You'll have EIDL, the PPP, companies can then apply to state grants and loans. And I think when you put all that together, and they work in concert with each other, then I would like to think that should be able to help businesses stay afloat.
Yeah. What about the grants? What ones are the grants?
Well, I haven't focused on the state and county level grants. Most of my focus has really been on speaking about EIDL and the PPP. By the way, for PPP, if there are churches out there, because at one point, churches and their affiliates were not allowed to apply under the EIDL or the PPP. Well, now even that has changed now. Okay, so religious organizations can now apply and their affiliates.
That's good. Yeah, that happened yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
And I think that's huge, right? Because there are a lot of religious organizations that provide services to the community.
Right. And I know Montgomery County Relief Package, I received a call from them. They're trying to find out who's willing to help with the applications for small business. So they've reached out to all the chambers, to all different associations, and they're putting a list together of, and they're going to train us on how to help businesses to get through that application process. So I think that will be helpful too.
Yes. And let me state this. I've received several calls from small business owners stating that their management and financial consultants out there that are charging to help businesses put their packages together. Please inform the business owners, do not pay anyone to do that. We have our small business development centers, our PTAC, we have SCORE, the chambers. We have resource partners that will help our small business owners put their packages together and apply. So please do not pay anyone to help them apply for any of these federal programs. I mean, I've heard fees as high as $2,500.
Oh my goodness! There's always people that are trying to take advantage in a down situation, unfortunately. So one other thing that Eric had brought up a little earlier was, he got a scam call, and that I don't know, Eric, if you want to mention that or not, but we should warn people that the SBA is not going to be calling you.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely. Just before this interview, I got a phone call from New Jersey, and it was obviously a person from overseas, and she asked me if I had applied for either PPL or the EIDL loan. And I said, you know what, let me entertain it. I already knew it was a spam call because I know from experience that the government is not going to call you to have you apply over the phone for anything. So
that's right.
I said, let me entertain it. Let me see what happens and where we go. So I said to her that I did apply for it, and she went on to ask me if I had the process or application number. And I said, you know what? No, I don't. And she says, well, then I need to take your information because we didn't get that information from you. That means you're not in the system. So then when I told her, I said, no, I printed it out, but I do have it. She said, oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much, and hung up right away. So I just want to warn people to be very, very careful that there are scammers who want your information. They're data mining, and they're going to want your Social Security. They want your as much information as possible in order to sell it to somebody else or use it for their nefarious reasons.
The SBA will not be calling anyone asking for an account number. They just won't. The SBA will send out a letter to you letting you know that whether or not your loan has been approved. If it's been approved, then they may ask for your account number. If you applied earlier when EIDL first started. Now, if you're applying for the up to $10,000 forgivable loan, on the application, it does ask for the routing number and the business account number as well as the EIN number. That is legitimate. That is a part of the SBA application process. But no one will be calling you from Fort Worth, Texas, which is where these loans are being processed, to ask you for an account number or any other information.
Absolutely. This is a perfect time. I mean, the climate is absolutely perfect for scammers. Right now, the business people are under a desperate situation. They need money, and these scammers know it, and they want to go out there and take advantage of that. So be very, very careful.
Please be careful. Now, I will give you an email address, and it's disaster customer service, all one word, at sba.gov. So when I said earlier, there's really no way to check on the application. You can email or send an email to this address, but frankly, because the system is overloaded, no one is really getting back to you from that email address. But I've given it to you so that you have it. But because of the volume of work, no one has received a response from that address.
Okay.
Because it's a national program, and we are it's a lot of volume. In fact, we are actively hiring people on board to do the intake for the application. So we have the intake people, and then we're looking for loan officers to actually process these loans.
If someone's interested in a job, where do they go for that, to apply for that?
Oh, yeah. usajobs.gov, and you just type in the Small Business Administration. It'll pop up, and you'll see all the jobs specifically for this disaster.
Okay.
Loan officers, processors, customer service reps, it's all out there.
And is this thing, they could do it from home?
I was ready to say, and you can work remotely.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. We'll put that out too. Okay, I think we covered just about everything. Does anybody else have anything you want to review?
And Marji, yes, very important that anytime that anybody goes to apply for anything, whether it be the jobs or for the loans, it's always going to be a .gov web address, because sometimes people will put in their web browser thinking they're putting an address, and it will just spit out a whole bunch of things. Scammers are there too. These third-party websites that are not the government are there, and they will take your information. So make sure that it's a .gov extension.
Excellent. Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to mention, there's a lot of information out there stating that for PPP, a lot of the banks are only processing their customers. Some banks are only processing their customers that have a lending relationship with them. So the natural question is, well, where do those customers go? Right now, TD Bank will be accepting PPP applications from non-bank customers as long as the new client to the bank is willing to open a business checking account at TD Bank. There's an online institution called NewTek, NEWTEK.com, and they're also taking on new relationships to process the PPP loan.
What was that website again?
NEW, T as in Tom, EK, NewTek.com.
Okay. Is there a list of, I pulled down a list of the SBA banks as of March 30th. Is there another list of like local banks that can process the PPPs for people?
We're updating the SBA list. However, even the local banks are pretty much just processing their own customers.
Okay.
And or customers that have a lending relationship. And so as I've been doing the research for this, TD Bank and NewTek Bank are the only two now accepting new clients. At one time, Live Oak Bank was accepting new clients, but they got so overwhelmed that they had to shut theirs down and just deal with the customers that they have. So there's overwhelming demand. There's obviously overwhelming demand for PPP. It's just making sure that every small business customer can be serviced.
Yes. Okay, but you said that there's still no guidelines for the banks, so that they're not processing anything yet.
We hope to have the guidelines come out no later than tomorrow. In fact, I'll be on a conference call. with the bankers, I think, tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So I'm assuming that by sometime this afternoon, the guidelines will be out internally for us to review to be able to share with the bankers tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Well, Rod, again, I thank you so much for taking this time out of your incredibly busy days and for being our expert from the SBA that we rely on. And again, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much for being on our Chamber podcast. And I hope everyone stays safe and healthy.
Yes, thank you. And feel free to call on me at any time. I will put my number out there. It's fine. It's 240-997-4024. My role is to, as I like to say, is to actually burst open the vault doors of all the financial institutions so that they will get the money out on the street to the small business owners. That's what my primary role is, and I take it very seriously.
And I know you do. And I want to thank you for all your work and everything you do. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Rod. You take care. Marji, you take care also. Thank you.